Potato pave. They're a pain in the ass to make, but super crispy on the outside, super creamy on the inside. I mean, it's so good, I had to take a second bite. Potato pave, potato mille-feuille, 1,000-layer potato thing, whatever you want to call it. It's just potatoes, butter, and salt baked through, pressed, chilled, cut, deep fried, and what you get is crispy on the outside, fluffy and creamy on the inside. It's like the ultimate tater tot. We're using russet potatoes. Russets are great because they're high in starch, low moisture content, and that starch is really helpful because we're looking for starch gelatinization, and that's gonna lead to a crispier result. I wouldn't really use like a Yukon Gold, which is more waxy and high moisture content, so it won't be as crispy. You wanna use a specific size of potato. This one is pretty even. It's also pretty much the width of the loaf pan, and it'll give me some good slices without too much waste. We'll get to peeling, just nice even strokes, and that's your guy. For now, we're gonna keep them in water. Before we even get slicing, we need to make sure these are trimmed. So I'm just gonna trim it so that it sort of fits this way. But I just wanna make sure that I have pretty even slices going across, so it makes my job a lot easier. We have all of our potatoes trimmed up. They're about 4 1/4 inch. So that's exactly the width this way of the loaf pan. In terms of the potato amount, this is a little over 2 kilograms of potatoes, and that's standardized to this loaf pan. This is an 8.5 by 4.5 by 2.5-ish loaf pan, and we found that after peeling and slicing and everything, you get around 1,500 grams of potato, and that'll take you up to almost the top here. We're gonna get a slicer or mandolin. I have a big container of water, and this is gonna be important to soak our potatoes. But more importantly, this prevents oxidation. So there's an enzyme in potatoes called polyphenol oxidase. Basically, when you peel or cut open a potato, you're exposing it to oxygen. That enzyme, when exposed to air, gets to work on the polyphenols that are in this potato, and it turns it brown. And that definitely will affect the look of the finished pave. You're going to have some waste when you do this, but that's sort of the reasoning behind the trimming first, and that streamlines the process. So you're getting these even slices. It's not the end of the world if you have a lot of trim. You can use it for mashed potatoes, you could use it for stir fries or whatever. So we're gonna be shooting for between 0.8 and 1 millimeter, about this size. All right, so this is our last potato. And you'll notice you are going to have some waste doing this, but the payoff, I think, is worth it. At this point, we just need to dry them. So we want to remove as much water as possible. My setup is half sheet pan. It's got 2 layers of towels. Got another one to blot dry. Got a landing spot here, and then we have our potatoes. Pretty simple. Just gonna line these up. Just grab a fistful, really, and just go for it. This step is very time consuming, and if you've got the patience and if you're willing to put in the effort, it's gonna be great. I've got my lineup of shingled potatoes. Just gonna blot it dry. Don't have to go crazy. Just gonna pick them up, and that's all she wrote. What would happen if the potatoes were wet and I built the pave? Some moisture is good. You want that water for starch gelatinization, but too much can be detrimental to the cooking time and possibly to the finished texture. Coming up on our last tray here, towards the end you see the longer they sit in the water, almost the more curled they get. Those are lined up. Get your towel, and that's it. Bit of a long, boring job, but it's done. So our potatoes are sliced, they're rinsed, they're dried, we're ready to build. But before we do that, we gotta coat them in a little bit of clarified butter and salt. First, let's make a parchment sling. There are a lot of different ways to do this, but a really simple way is to take a half sheet here, and I'm really just interested in the length here. And so I'm gonna fashion a sling that nestles this way. So to do that, I just eyeball this, and I wanna make it line up with the length of the pan, more or less. Just make a little fold there. We get a nice crease. There's our sling. We spray the bottom of our pan and the sides. We take our sling and we just plop it right in. And now we are ready to build. We've got our potatoes. We gotta coat them with about 12 tablespoons of clarified butter, 5 grams of kosher salt. The reason why we're using clarified butter here versus just melted butter is that butter has whey in it and milk proteins that will brown prematurely. And so clarifying removes that whey and it prevents this from really browning excessively. So everything's coated in butter, we're ready to build. We have our slices. They've been cut pretty much to the width of the pan. This is a really tedious, time-consuming, high-effort step, but it's really the most important step in this whole recipe. You take the time, you'll get rewarded with an amazing pavé later. We took the time to trim these potatoes lengthwise, pretty much to the width of the pan, and we're just gonna shingle them now. And it's more or less 4 potato slices per layer with a slight overlap. And then I've saved these last 4 really nice slices for the top, just as a little added insurance. At this point, I'm gonna grab a second loaf pan, gonna fold over this parchment, get a little package like that. With our second loaf pan, I'm just gonna press down with even pressure. You'll see some creep up the sides here. That's okay, we'll address that later. As for baking, we need to cover this really well. We want to trap all that moisture in there so that we can gelatinize the starches. If we were to leave it uncovered, it would brown prematurely on the top, and that's not necessarily what we're looking for. So we've got some foil, go over the top, and then crimp. And as for the rest of this baking setup, this is gonna go into an oven set at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for around 2 hours until the skewer comes out really clean and then there's no resistance. All right, so this has been baking for around 2 hours and we're just gonna open it up and test into it, see if it's done. This is a needle probe, but you could use a cake tester, a wooden skewer, whatever you got, and super soft, like literally no resistance, super clean, it's done. Now we have to press our pavé. Pressing is a really important step for this recipe. If we were to leave it unpressed, you'd probably discern all the layers a lot more and break apart on you. We do want some cohesion here, we want some firmness to it. It ensures that the layers actually stick to each other so you get a more cohesive slice. So how do we weigh this down? You got a ton of options, but I found the easiest thing to do was to use another loaf pan. If we were going to press it, right, it wouldn't get all of the edges. So I cut out a piece of cardboard and then wrapped it in foil, taped the ends, and it's just trimmed. So I'm gonna fit it right in, just like this, and put on our second loaf pan. Be sure that you're pretty centered when you're doing this, and just press. I'm applying some decent pressure here, so that's well pressed. I wanna weigh it down even more, so that over time, as it sets in the refrigerator, it keeps that shape. You could use like soup cans, anything that really fits in here, but we found that a brick fits really well. So this is gonna chill at least 8 hours, and that's really important to set the starches and to set their overall shape. We'll pop this in the fridge, leave it overnight, come back to it, we'll unmold it, cut it, and fry it. Our pavé has chilled overnight. It's set really well. It's been weighted down. We're ready to unmold. First things first, take our big old brick out. So you'll notice everything is stuck together. That's all that clarified butter that has solidified as it's chilled. We need to apply some heat to unstick it. And the best way for me is a blowtorch. Obviously you could just flash it in the oven if you're not comfortable with a blowtorch, but this is fast and I like torching things, so. Let's see if this slides out. Perfect. You'll notice we have this foil layer still. We kind of have to loosen it a little bit first, and it should pop right out. We've got our really nice flat pavé. Now we need to unmold it. Easiest way to do this is to flip it over. I'm torching it here. My goal is to just release it from the sides of the pan. I'm not trying to warm up the entire pavé. And then we'll test it, see if it lifts off, and there it is. It came out pretty clean, and it's still cold, which is really important. So we can go right into portioning of this. We need to transfer it to our cutting board. There is a good layer of parchment here. Make sure we get rid of it. And as far as portioning, first we're going to trim it. So we want to get it nice and square. All right, so that's all for trim. we're ready to portion. Having like a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch thickness is a good ballpark range. Down the middle, we're just gonna go in half again. Now these are pretty big chunks, but this would be the max size that I would go. You could even go in half like this, so you get like squares. To choose your own adventure, up to you. And these will be a little bit more crispy compared to creamy. If I wanted to go even smaller, I'll break this into thirds, and there's your amuse-bouche. So these are all been portioned. They're cut, they're nice, they're ready to fry. All right, so our oil is heated to 350 degrees. We're ready to fry. Just slide them right in. You could also use like your spider and drop them in gently. I'm looking for them to not stick to each other, so I am giving a slight bit of agitation. After enough cooking, they will release. I just want to make sure that they're separated from each other. You might be able to tell here, but these two guys are attached at the hip a little bit, so I'm just going to jostle them free. We're looking for golden brown, crispy on the outside. At the same time, we're still looking for that creamy interior, that creamy texture. These are getting real close. These bubbles are also getting a little bit finer. That tells me that things are getting a little bit lighter and more crunchy. I'm happy with the level of browning throughout. It's very uniform, it's very beautiful. Let's just pull them. So drain them decently well in the wok. We'll transfer over. Those are our fried big portions. Really happy with the look of them. Some kosher salt. I'm just gonna go over the top, and then we'll give these a flip, sprinkle on high. It's fried up beautifully. I'd be really happy with this. So here are our finished fried pavés. At this point, you have a multitude of serving options. We went super classic here. I'm just gonna dress this as I would in a restaurant. If I'm at the table, give it a nice dollop of creme fraiche, maybe a little bit of this nice paddlefish caviar, some fancy chives. That's pretty ridiculous. You can really taste through all the layers. I mean, it's so good, I had to take a second bite. And it's really interesting to me because if you eat it this way, crosswise, you get one texture. But if you eat it perpendicular to all the layers, you get a different texture. Really crispy on the outside, creamy, fluffy on the inside, bursting with potato flavor. This is an amazing expression of fried potato, in my opinion, and worth the time and effort. And just as a reference, we can cut into one of these and we'll show you cross section. With this cross section, you can clearly see all these layers are still preserved really well. It's nice and tender and creamy on the inside. And that's potato pavé, a tater tot on steroids.
Subscribe to our channel and visit ChefSteps.com for more tips, recipes, guides, and tools to help you level up in the kitchen.